Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. Stephen Curry is the most beloved player by Warriors fans, and unfortunately he suffered an injury and will be out for approximately 10 days and will miss some games. The Warriors offensively depend on Curry, and we hope he recovers and returns as quickly as possible to help the Warriors recover this season. The Golden State Warriors have suffered another injury, with Stephen Curry limping off the court with 35 seconds left in their 104-100 loss to the Houston Rockets last night. According to ESPN's Anthony Slater this morning, Curry has been diagnosed with a right quad contusion. How did the Warriors replace Stephen Curry during the latest injury? Golden State dominated the first half of last night's game and took a 59-47 lead into halftime behind Jimmy Butler's 13 points and 4 assists. The Warriors, who led by as many as 14 points, saw their lead shrink to 2 at the end of the third. The Rockets completed their comeback early in the fourth, scoring 9 of the first 11 points in the quarter. Trailing by 8 with over 9 minutes left, Golden State kept things close the remainder of the quarter, even taking a 1-point lead with 5 minutes to go. But the Rockets responded to an 11-4 run over the next 4+ minutes for a 99-93 lead. Curry, who finished with just 14 points, sank a pair of free throws to cut the deficit to 4 with 48 seconds on the clock, though he left the game 13 seconds later during a timeout. According to The Athletic's Nick Friedell, Curry was really hurting and spent the entire timeout talking to Warriors trainer Rick Celebrini. Friedell added that Celebrini and Curry headed back to the locker room before the final buzzer. There was no word on how Curry suffered the quad injury, but he was involved in 2 collisions in the fourth quarter. The first occurrence was when Curry attempted to draw a charge on Amen Thompson. The second collision happened a few plays later when Curry drove in for a layup and ran into a Rockets defender. Curry was scheduled to have an MRI today to confirm the diagnosis and determine the severity of the injury. Apparently, the MRI confirmed the diagnosis, as ESPN's Shams Charania reported that the Warriors believe that Curry avoided a serious injury. Still, his return will depend on how the quad responds to treatment. Stephen Curry likely to miss at least 3 games. The Golden State Warriors anticipate Stephen Curry will miss around a week or a little more with a quad contusion suffered Wednesday night, sources tell me, and at Anthony Slater, Charania tweeted. He's believed to have avoided any serious issues. The return will depend on how the quad responds to treatment. According to the Warriors' timeline, Curry will likely sit out at least 3 games, versus New Orleans, November 29th, versus Oklahoma City, December 2nd, and Philadelphia, December 4th. Perhaps the earliest that Curry will be back in action is the first weekend of December, when the Warriors are in Cleveland, December 6th, and Chicago, December 7th. The Warriors are then off until December 18th, when they conclude their 4-game trip in Phoenix. Curry has been pretty healthy the last couple of seasons, though he has already sat out 4 games. However, throughout his career, he has dealt with several injuries and has missed over 250 contests. With the loss to Houston, Golden State falls to 10-10 on the campaign. The Warriors sit in 8th place in the Western Conference with a plus 0.7 scoring margin. The Warriors are just 4-8 on the road and own an identical 5-5 record against teams with a winning and sub-500 mark. Granted, the Golden State has yet to have a full squad, but the Warriors do have plenty of issues. Through the first 20 games, the Warriors have lost 48 games to injuries, including DeAnthony Melton, who has yet to play. Who will replace Steph Curry? Putting the ball in the basket has been a major issue for the Warriors. While Curry and Butler are doing their things, Jonathan Kuminga is the Warriors' 3rd leading scorer at 13.2 points, and he has missed 7 contests. The Warriors are 22nd in the league in offensive efficiency, ranking 23rd in shooting percentage, 45.3%, and 26th in turnovers, 16.6. In addition, as in the past several years, the Warriors have struggled on the glass. It will not be easy for the Golden State to replace Curry, especially if none of the other injured players return for Saturday's game against the Pelicans. Curry was not the only Warrior to leave the game against Houston early. Gary Payton too left the game in the second quarter with a sprained left ankle and didn't return. Melton, Kuminga, and Al Horford all sat out the game against the Rockets. If Steph has to miss time? Steve Kerr said last night, per Slater. It obviously changes everything, our rotations, how we're playing, who we are playing through. We'll see. Gary Payton too also left the game against the Rockets. Payton is expected to be listed as questionable for the game on Saturday at the very least. Melton could also be available against the Pelicans as the Warriors recalled him from their G League club in Santa Cruz on Wednesday after Kerr watched him practice with Santa Cruz at the Chase Center. Melton looked excellent. He's moving well. The toughest challenge for him will be rhythm, Kerr told Sam Gordon of the San Francisco Chronicle. We're excited to get him back. He's a two-way player, and he's a great decision maker. We know he's going to help us take care of the ball and often guard the other team's quick point guards. So, he's going to help us for sure. Melton, who participated in the scrimmage for a couple of quarters, wasn't the only Warriors player to participate in the practice with Santa Cruz yesterday. Kuminga saw about 15 minutes of action in the scrimmage and looked good, according to Kerr. Based on what Kerr told Gordon, the 23-year-old, who is dealing with bilateral knee tendonitis, may also be ready to return by Saturday. However, he is not slated to return until early next week. Warriors options Golden State is 1-3 without Curry this season. In those 4 games, the Warriors were outscored by an average of 110.7 to 107.5, while connecting on just 41.4% of their shots from the field and 30% from beyond the arc. However, Butler, Green, and Horford also missed 2 of those games while Kuminga sat out 1 game. Brandon Podziemski started the 4 previous games that Curry missed. So, he is the obvious choice to start at the 1. The 22-year-old played exceptionally well in Curry's absence, averaging 12.2 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 4.5 assists with shooting splits of 47/52/88. He produced 1 double-double, though defense is an issue for the youngster. The injury will also prompt Kerr to decide who to pair alongside Podziemski. It will likely be Moses Moody, though. If Kuminga can go, then Butler could slide to the backcourt. Moody and Podziemski started together in 3 of the 4 games that Curry missed this season. Warriors' projected starting lineup and rotation with Curry out. Kerr will likely extend his rotation, even if Kuminga and Melton return, as both players will likely be on minutes restrictions, specifically Melton. Horford will not be available against the Pelicans, as it is the 3rd game he has been ruled out for due to sciatica. However, Horford could miss more time. Desperate Warriors need these 2 players to debut soon. The Golden State Warriors are 10-10, just lost Steph Curry and desperately need veteran reinforcements. 2 in particular can't come soon enough. Curry injured his quad muscle Wednesday night in a loss to the Houston Rockets. He's been the Warriors' leading scorer this season, 27.9 ppg, and the team is 9-7 when he plays and 1-3 without him. That's why the team could really use off-season signings DeAnthony Melton and Seth Curry to join the team. DeAnthony Melton returned to the court for a scrimmage. DeAnthony Melton signed with the Warriors for the 2nd straight summer after his 2024-25 season was derailed by a torn ACL. Melton is still less than a year past his surgery, which happened December 4, 2024, and will be re-evaluated next week. However, he was healthy enough to scrimmage at the Chase Center with the G League Santa Cruz Warriors Wednesday. Melton joined Jonathan Kuminga, also making his way back from a knee injury, in a full-court, 5-on-5 practice. That's a good sign. Melton could be ready to return to a team that struggled to stop opposing guards. The most recent one to torment them was Houston's Reed Shepherd, who scored a career-high 31 points Wednesday as Moses Moody, while Richard and Brandon Podziemski all failed to contain him. After the game, Jimmy Butler complained that the Warriors let anybody do whatever they want on offense. Even if he's playing limited minutes in his comeback, Melton should help provide defense for a Warriors team that's simply blowing assignments. Podziemski in particular has a tendency to overhelp and end up guarding no one. Melton can also help provide three-point shooting for a team highly dependent on Steph Curry on the perimeter. Seth Curry's return is a matter of money. While the health of Melton's knee will determine when he comes back, it's money and cap concerns that are holding out Curry's brother, Seth. The Warriors agreed with Seth before the season, then released him as planned before the season, because they couldn't afford his full minimum salary after being hard-capped at the first luxury tax apron. But they've been able to sign the younger Curry since mid-November. They're waiting in order to have more flexibility for later moves, like a trade involving the unhappy Kuminga, while Seth, a 43.3% career three-point shooter, cools his heels. It has to be tempting to add Seth with Buddy Hield shooting 31% from deep this season while providing very little defense. And like Melton, it's tempting simply to have a veteran who knows where to be on the floor. They'll likely wait, especially with Kuminga nearing his return and Melton possibly right behind. But sitting at 10-10, the Warriors don't have a lot of time to waste hoping their current roster turns things around. Almost no one is immune to the Warriors' turnover woes. The Golden State Warriors' entire roster is seemingly committing turnovers at career-worst rates. The Golden State Warriors are far from where they hoped to be 20 games into the season. The Dubs are 10-10 and were far from firing on all cylinders even before Steph Curry suffered a left quad contusion. While Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green have consistently blamed the team's defensive intensity for the Warriors' disappointing record, Golden State's offensive woes have seemed to be a far larger problem. Offensively, the Warriors have struggled with one thing most of all: turnovers. The Dubs have committed 16.6 turnovers per game this season, an 18.6% increase over last season. Despite actually forcing more opponent turnovers per game than last season, the Warriors have gone from forcing 1.7 more turnovers per game than they've committed to committing 0.2 more turnovers per game than their opponents. Yet, while those shifts may seem small, they reflect a team-wide trend. 9 Warriors players currently have the most single-season turnovers per 36 minutes of their careers: Draymond Green, 4.0, Steph Curry, 3.6, Gue Santos, 3.6, Jonathan Kuminga, 3.5, Tracy Jackson Davis, 1.9, Quinton Post, 1.8, Moses Moody, 1.8, Gary Payton II, 1.7, and Brandon Podziemski, 1.7. Veteran role players Buddy Hield, 2.4, and Al Horford, 2.2, have the second worst single-season marks of their careers as well. Jimmy Butler remains the only consistent member of Golden State's rotation that is not committing turnovers at one of the highest rates for his career. Given the Warriors' lack of offensive firepower outside of Curry and Butler, squandering possessions without attempting shots at a high rate puts Golden State in an even worse position. Solving the Warriors' turnover woes could go a long way toward turning things around. The Warriors are far from the only team who has seen a spike in turnovers this season. The Warriors are committing the 5th most turnovers per game in the NBA. They are among 9 teams averaging more than 16 turnovers per game, a mark that only the Jazz eclipsed last season. The success of the Pacers and Thunder last season with defensive schemes that aim to force turnovers through aggressive ball pressure has led more teams around the league to maximize athleticism and length defensively. It's not surprising that the Warriors have been particularly hurt by this strange and league-wide strategy. The Warriors lack ball handling and athleticism. The team's 3 primary initiators, Curry, Butler, and Green, have all long been limited athletically compared to their NBA peers, and now are in the twilights of their careers. Add in Curry and Green's long-standing tendency for a couple absurd head-scratching turnovers a night, and there's a recipe for wasted possessions. Perhaps the Warriors' grueling travel schedule has played a role as well, and more rest will see them limit turnovers over time. However, at the moment, it seems like General Manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. may need to be eyeing a primary ball handler at the trade deadline to help Golden State's offense handle the latest defensive innovations. Jimmy Butler has been a star in his role, but sad Warriors need him to be an actual star. Butler sounds like he's losing his joy again as Golden State has struggled to find a groove. Jimmy Butler sounds like he's losing his joy again. That didn't take long. Butler has played 60 games with the Warriors, including last year's postseason, And already he's at his wit's end with a .500 team that leans almost entirely on Stephen Curry turning into Superman to win games. "We're gonna have to be damn near perfect," Butler said of Golden State's chances of surviving without Curry, who is going to be out at least a week with a quad contusion. "We're not going to have the ultimate bailout on our team. But even when Curry is on the floor, we're going to have to do our job because we make the game real difficult," Butler continued. As great of a basketball player as he is, he has a really hard job. Every single day he's gotta be the Batman of all Batmans and save us every night. That ain't what he's here to do. Butler was then asked to elaborate on what the Warriors do, in his estimation, to make the game hard for themselves, and he rattled off a list of ills that have clearly been getting on his nerves for a while. "We don't box out. We don't go with the scouting report. We let anybody do whatever they want. Open shots. Get into the paint. Free throws. It's just sad. You be the judge for yourself," but this does not sound like a happy Jimmy Butler, whose, shall we say, enthusiasm for his current NBA situation has always had an expiration date. So here's the thing, Butler isn't wrong. Curry righting all of Golden State's wrongs with nuclear scoring explosions is not a formula for sustained success. It's nice to have that ace up your sleeve, but no, you cannot be reaching for it every night. The Warriors are 10-10 and at least 3 of those wins are a direct result of Curry saving the day. First he went for 42, including 35 after halftime, in an overtime victory versus the Nuggets in the first week of the season. The Warriors had no business winning that game. Curry scored 16 straight points over a 6-minute surge spanning the end of the fourth quarter and the start of overtime. All told, he outscored the Nuggets by himself, 18-15, from the 2:42 mark of the fourth forward. He had to sink this shot to get the game to overtime in the first place. A couple of weeks ago, Curry basically single-handedly lifted the Warriors over Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs twice in 3 nights by rattling off 95 points and 15 three-pointers. Again, this is a great option to have. Any good team, let alone one aspiring to be a contender, has a superstar who needs to save the day once in a while. But the Warriors are supposed to have 2 superstars. You see what I'm getting at here? Butler is quick to call out all these things the Warriors aren't doing well, which, again, he's not wrong about, but conveniently, we're not hearing anything about Golden State's 110.3 offensive rating when Butler is on the floor without Curry, which would rank as the 5th worst mark in the league. I know the rebuttal to this point. The Warriors are still a net positive when Butler is on the floor without Curry because of a 90th percentile defensive rating, per cleaning the glass, and it's true that Curry's defense isn't what it once was in terms of staying in front of people, so as much as Curry saves the day offensively, he's at the point now where he's the one getting bailed out a lot of the time defensively.